It's 20 hours.
Namaskar, a very warm good evening to you all. And today is a very, very auspicious occasion. The entire country is closing the Republic Day 2020 celebrations. We all witnessed the beating retreat ceremony on Rajpath, on Vijay Chowk over here. So the indebted Republic, it bowed down to its armed forces, which played in its unique majesty the songs of the republic, and lot many innovations and new insertions have been made in this year's Republic Day closure ceremony. As we all know, we were hearing the martial music of the Indian Army, the valiant Indian Army. And today on the Saturdays for Strategic Affairs, today's edition of this Rethink India Prime Time, we have a very, very special personality with us, who would be illumining us in greater detail, the greater depth of the multifaceted threats and challenges to the security of India, and also some of the personal recommendations from a unique 5 decades of career. We have got with us Lieutenant Colonel S.K. Bedi, sir, with us to illumine and enlighten us today. Lieutenant Colonel Bedi, sir, was commissioned in the Indian Army in the 21 Rajput Regiment as a pure infantry soldier just at the onset of the Bangladesh War of 1971, and the day was 14th of November. Uh, Lieutenant Colonel Bedi has participated in the War of Liberation of Bangladesh, which was a major geopolitical, I would say, theater which India entered into successfully, which only the major powers think of as a geopolitical power player. And he also participated in the battles of Panchgarh, Thakurgaon, and Khansama. And as we all know that war veterans, उनको गोलियां ही उनके लिए पुष्पों का हार होती हैं. Lieutenant Colonel Bedi escaped narrowly in the first attack when 2 bullets went through his helmet, and and he got GSW in the knee in the Battle of Khansama. We would really request sir to explain to us that very close experience, because हम लोग पिक्चरों में तो बहुत देखते हैं, पर जब गोली वो रियल लाइफ में आप जब उसका सामना करते हैं, तो I think for our young viewers who really aspire to pursue a prolific and a prestigious career in the armed forces, as we on the Indian Army Day we had that session whereby the career prospects in the Indian Army were greatly detailed out by Major General C.P. Singh साहब. तो सर उसके बारे में भी थोड़ा बताएं तो बहुत सुंदर रहेगा. And Lieutenant Colonel Bedi was awarded the Sena Medal, and his battalion was honored with the Battle and Theatre Honor. So that was his great contribution out there in real wars. And then he spent a whopping 27 years of illustrious career in Army, spanning regimental assignments, intelligence, operations, logistics, planning, and human resources. As Major General C.P. Singh Saab said, that it's an all-round career. You really get to see, like people are so enchanted with the careers in civil services, but the armed services are equally prestigious, equally exciting, equally passionate out there. So we have got a passionate soldier who takes pride in calling himself as a pure infantry soldier. So we are really so very privileged. And then Lieutenant Colonel also spent some 2 decades in the private sector, in the health sector, in various positions out there. So sir would be really illumining us today on the multifaceted threats and multifaceted threats which India faces, right from the Chinese expansionist designs to the insurgency in the Northeast, including the security threat amidst governments, various policy amendments and reforms which have been going on, including the abrogation of Articles 370 and 35A. What are the implications out there? And how India's robust foreign policy is actually defending us one step further, and India's role in Afghanistan's stability, and India's growing relations with the Central Asia, and how to deal with Nepal, Myanmar, and China. So all these questions would be answered in today's session. So I welcome all over again to Lieutenant Colonel S.K. Bedi sir, and thank him for really taking out time and really coming on this show, sir. Over to Prabhat sir for a moment, because he has been the constant companion and bringing all these luminaries in this school for future presentations, whereby we feel that defense studies and discourse on defense and strategic affairs has to become an integral part of the Indian education system. Maybe we might not get a chance to really join in the armed forces, but somehow the other, our entire academia, this ये एक माहौल बनना चाहिए कि डिफेंस और स्ट्रैटेजिक अफेयर्स की एक बेसिक समझ हम सभी विद्यार्थियों में हो. So over to Prabhat sir to welcome Lieutenant Colonel Bedi.
Good evening, Bedi sir. Good evening, Raghav sir, and all the participants. I mean, who are present out here. And like, introduction has already been given by Raghav sir. So Lieutenant Bedi is an institution in himself. So I mean, without taking much of time, I would like to, over to this Lieutenant Bedi, who will be illuminating us today on different threats India is facing and how to, what are the recommendations basically to deal out there. So over to you, sir.
Right. Thanks a million, the Rethink India team. It's a pleasure that we have interacted and decided upon a subject which is very, very important to us, especially in the the current political scenario, as well as the international scenario, where developments are taking place every moment. And to that extent, it becomes vast as well as important. Here, basically, our viewers, listeners, one wants to put it across to them what is the vastness of the problem, the enormity of the problem which is facing, and who and the team or the government which is dealing with it. And in that, we have to fish out our role as a polity as well as the role of the opposition. So that point has to be understood, because once we go away from here, we should know where to support the government outright, because the results are not discernible with a magic wand. It needs time. So we have to look for indications. We have to look for indications as to whether we are going in the right direction, right? And what it is, nation first, which we have been calling it. We have fought for it over a period of time. And thereafter, once we have come across, it is we are building up our nation. And 1947 and thereafter, 70 years, 7 decades is no mean time for we to progress. So this is where we stand, how to support the government so that it can work continually. Otherwise, somewhere we will go astray and we will mismanage the achievements which are possible within us. So that is exactly the point. And to that extent, our discussion is basically on matters of security and governance also, because these are the two aspects of that. Now, whereas the issue is we get embroiled as a nation, that is, we call ourselves Bharatvarsh, we call Hindustan, we call ourselves India. The point is very simple. We are one nation. The terminology is based on historical facts and what has evolved itself. So to that extent, probably it is an established fact that we as a nation need to put aside all these aspects of so-called, I would say, bickering or taking advantage of splitting hairs. So we need to set aside that. Now, just imagine our nation, India, is having 9 neighbors. It is no mean this thing. For example, these are Afghanistan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, China, Maldives also, we extend ourselves like that, Myanmar, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. When you are surrounded by so many neighbors, the point at issue is we need to have a special policy for them, each of them, and with a concerted effort to build up relations with them. And imagine we have almost 15,000 kilometers of land border and almost 7,500 of the coastline. So it is a territory which is enormous. It has got, it has to build up relationships with number of neighboring states. And thereafter, of course, you extend yourself to the international arena where number of countries are involved. Now, all these neighbors are surrounded by, say, a nation called China, right? China has got a very important role. China has been there consistently, a pinprick in our outlook, in our strategy, in our in our planning as such. And to that extent, since 1947, when we became independent, we should have realized that who are our neighbors and what is their potential, threat, because we cannot assume that everyone is friendly. Similarly, Pakistan definitely showed its cards right in the 1947 itself, when they carried out military operations in Kashmir to annex it. The aim was very clear. It was our brave soldiers, our diplomacy with the Maharaja in Kashmir, as well as thorough planning at the operational level, which had averted the tables. And in fact, had we been aggressive, had we been, say, exploited our victory, which firstly we stalled them, and then we could have exploited our victory right up till the international border. However, whatever was the decision taken, right or wrong is obvious, but we established a line, and thereafter we were divided into our Kashmir, please mind it, it is still our Kashmir. The Kashmir as such was divided into two, that is the Pakistan occupied Kashmir and our Kashmir, where our own citizens were inhabiting. So that is the one showcasing of Pakistan's intention. So he was an outright aggressor from the very inception. Whereas the China also having the Maoist philosophy, the communism, which was always having inherent expansionist designs, apart from its internal administration and the characteristics of the communist governance. The China, as such, always had expansionist designs, and to that extent, we did establish peaceful coexistence, Panchsheel principles of Panchsheel, and all these understanding had been brought about. The first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, was almost convinced that their Himalayan borders are secure. And to that extent, probably the need was never felt. Whereas the issue is, now looking backwards, our development diplomatically as well as militarily would have been in consonance. Then the political military aims could have been achieved. Right? So, but then somewhere the conviction or our policy had put the preparation militarily in a back burner. So to that extent, as the things came about, Chow and Light played its trump card by saying Hindu Chini bhai bhai, and whereas they invaded the country in 1962. And in all fronts, right from the Aksai, from the east, dry junction of Tibet, Arunachal, India, and to the west in the Ladakh, the operations were carried out by the Chinese, well prepared, whereas we were taken aback on all fronts. And to that extent, we had a bloody nose. We are in the process of while in the crisis, also our reactions or actions to the situation were were frittered away, had differences to an extent. The defense minister, Mr. Krishna Menon, had to resign from his position. Apart from militarily, the strategy, there were differences of opinion. So what got highlighted was the China and the Pakistan are the two neighbors who need to be watched careful. Now the question, as far as my experience goes, right up till my when I was in the early days of joining army, there was always a question, which is the enemy number one, China or Pakistan? There was used to be a lot of conversation on that. And if I look at it, we always considered Pakistan as number one. Reason being, well, probably our reason was he had been actually an aggressor. But we did not learn the lesson in 62 because they invaded in a very big way. They came down right up till Tezpur. Almost they had entered the plains. And it was the international pressure or which made them withdraw. Of course, militarily, we can say their logistic line was had extended and we could have dislodged them or we could have hurt them at their bases, logistical basis. But then apart from that, it is very clear they had showed their dominance. And the message was loud and clear, we need to work backwards and start planning on our strengthening of the armed forces, which implies equipment and training. Apart from that, as far as the China was concerned, there was an established fact. We had learned a lesson. They have impacted our psyche also. And that is where, as far as the army was concerned, they had taken a special cognizance of this fact, and they had tried to train their troops, their command level, their command, psychologically, that we are no less. And for that, there were two things. One was training as well as equipping the armed forces accordingly. So this is the sort of thing we had at a very early stage, that is in 62. But prior to that, Pakistan surprised us with their aggression in 47. So these were the two very, very big indications that we need to be careful of, and we need to plan our strategy as far as our neighbors are concerned. So now, now going further.
Sir, yeah, one question coming to my mind. I mean,
Yes.
since 1947, we could see like, the designs of sinister designs of Pakistan, after that China. So where is the lack basically, where we could not prepared ourselves to defend all these things?
You see, I think if you recall our policy, there were two things. One was non-aligned, right? And the other one was we will never have territorial designs. As a corollary to that, it was we are a peace-loving nation. So to that extent, no aggression, peace-loving, no territorial design was, we had articulated it so much in our side, as well as to the world fraternity, that we were in inaction, I would say, as far as the military actions are concerned. Military actions are actually a tool to your political aims. So, to that extent, the recommendations or the say the outlook of formulating the strategy, in that the whole thing was not very well coordinated. As far as the diplomatically is concerned, we were satisfied with that we are non-aligned. But in spite of being non-aligned, it doesn't mean you need not equip yourself. It does not mean that you train yourself. It doesn't mean that we do not analyze the strength of the Chinese, right? It doesn't mean that we do not analyze what is happening in Pakistan. For example, the 65 venture which took place in of Pakistan, how were they equipped? They had taken aid as well as equipment for the Durand line between Afghanistan and Pakistan, right? To fight the rebels in that particular area, right? But then they misused it and against against India. Maybe with the tacit support of the suppliers, that is the USA, they gave aid also, they gave equipment also. So, but then our army, in spite of whatever equipment was there, we are planning, our generalship, our troops on ground, they were par excellence, and we could beat their pattern tanks like toys. The Battle of Cham, the Battle of Khemkaran, and all these places, we proved ourselves that apart from having good equipment, it is very that the man behind the gun has to be excellent. The spirit for and love for the motherland. So that is what the whole issue is. Similarly, now Chinese 62, but thereafter we should have speeded up what we are doing at the moment. So that is what it is. Does it answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One thing more, sir, at the time when we're talking about extended neighborhood and but is it talking all this at this moment? Is it futile to talk this extended neighborhood when we are not able to stabilize, or we are not able to make good relations with our closed neighborhood?
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now, this is at the moment, we are in a catch-22 situation. We have realized the whatever slowdown had taken place, I'll not say mistakes and things like that, but the slowdown which was there, or the complacency which was there in preparing ourselves as a nation, which means diplomatically, militarily, and of course the internal situation. So these are the three tiers, you can say. So in that, the first two tiers, we actually are behind schedule. The stage at we have missed the boat, I would say, or we have overlooked, because the allocation of the budget all these years will suggest to you what is what. Say phasing out of equipment, that also was getting delayed. We were really involved in perspective planning, thereby meaning upgradation of equipment, not technologically advanced equipment. Right? So that was the sort of complacency which was there, or the understanding between the military, the armed forces, and the government, that what is required on priority. For example, the say MiG-29s, they were supposed to be phased out, right, at a particular stage. But if they are carrying on, it does not mean that the Air Force guys have not put up the file to the government. It is there. Now, it is the question of taking decision, allocating priorities, and um, uh, and getting the budget allotted, because everything costs money. That should be very well understood. So that aspect of budget, the our funding or allocation of funds, that if you study the balance, would be studying the budget, it will speak for itself how much importance we have given. Then only, if until and unless we decide on that, at this stage, the scenario of fighting a battle in mountains means this. We need, say, for example, howitzers, which can cross the crest line of the mountains. We need heavy howitzers. We need to look deep into the enemy. So what is required? So based on that, in 60s, that what was required, in 70s, what was required, say, let's take decade, and then 80s, and now we have come down to 20s, right? So in 20s, to look deep into the enemy, we talk of drones, we talk of so many other latest equipment. So that is where the gap was there. Now, your question of having extended neighbors, it is very strong point as far as the philosophy is concerned. I would say not even concept, because your point is what you were hinting at, if we are not actually prepared for that. I dare say, though even at the moment, we say that we can give a bloody news to the Chinese. Very well. But at the moment, it is because of the army as such, the troops as such, the generalship, the planning part of it. But otherwise, we are still short of that parity with China. We are still short of that parity, because you have seen in Galwan, it was they who have taken the initiative, right? Personally, if we are would personally, I would say, let's presume that we are strong enough. I would say, if they can come and sit on a height, why can't we sit on a height? There are still so many heights left. We did it, but in a very limited and token form. Had we been that much strong, had we been that much, say, our area of influence had been that much deeper, we, instead of going deep inside, we could have just sat down. If they have sat down on A point, B point, we could have sat down on another strategic points. Because I am very sure, as far as the army is concerned, they have got adequate contingencies to meet such requirements. If the Chinese come here, what an alternative here. If we have, because outright assaulting, dislodging the enemy in a, say, no war situation becomes difficult, because we have faced it earlier also. You got that point? So to that extent, so ultimately we come to that conclusion. At the moment, developing extended neighborhood is limited to only plastic smile. That is, you give a smile, it reverts back to like that. And let's continue that. Goodwill, we continue that. But effectively, to become an effective friend, you need to give, you have to fund their projects. You have to economically be stronger than them to improve their defense potential. You become a defense exporter to them. So that all these elements will come into play so that your diplomacy is effective. So coming nearer, the first conclusion which would come is if we should become stronger with our our ties should become stronger with our neighbors, in which Pakistan is definitely outrightly opposed to us, in spite of there have been philosophies which say you have, say, prosperous neighbors, so we'll have peace, but they have not yet recognized it. Pakistan's case is very simple, that Sikh, firstly, militarily being a loser, that Sikh is inbuilt. The second Sikh of their army or their armed forces is that keep the pot boiling as far as Kashmir is concerned, so that they have a leverage of power, because this has a pattern that Pakistan army has always been in the center of the control of power as far as the administration or the governance of the country is concerned. So this is how it is as far as the extended neighbors are concerned. It doesn't mean that we close our doors. We have to have, various diplomatic ways are there as far as the external affairs are concerned. They have got their own methodology of being in touch, of being sending a proposal and things like that, which instead of being materialized straight away, they can linger on. That is the sort of. So this is what it is. And as far as otherwise, I consider China at the moment is one of the very, I would say, in a very, very critical situation as far as India is concerned, because its development economically, militarily is no less as far as, say, for example, Galwan Valley, when they had encroached upon in that particular area, it definitely gave an indication that they have got a huge logistic base in Tibet, which they consider it as their suzerain. To that extent, this point has very, very vividly come out. Now, what is the inference to that is if we need to prepare accordingly, because they are having the ability to mobilize all types of equipment, including tanks and armored vehicle carriers. So similarly, we need to build up. This time, the positive point was that the armed forces could mobilize themselves in a much quicker pace than probably one could have envisaged, because there was political will also, because as far as the political will was concerned, we were given a free hand as far as that was concerned. So to that extent, we need to consider, apart from this localized, say, incidents which have taken place, the China has got a bigger design as far as the expansion is concerned. We have got neighbors which are landlocked. For example, Nepal is there, Bhutan is there, and otherwise, say Bangladesh is one, Myanmar is one, all these having, Pakistan is the other one. All these neighbors are having, say, for example, they are having, they are independent, but yet they are dependent in some form or the other. And to that extent, as far as the China is concerned, the South Asia, they want to have an access to the ocean. Their policy is to dominate the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean, and that is how. And if you notice, they have been trying to hobnob as far as these countries are concerned. Nepal, they were able to have a pro-Chinese stance by And in that, how they entered? By sponsoring projects, giving long-term loans, disproportionately huge. Then Bangladesh, for example, though at the moment we are having fairly good relations with Bangladesh, yet as far as the trade is concerned, they are at the moment on the higher pedestal as or their investment is much higher than us. So once that is there, their presence will be guaranteed. Right? Similarly, you go to Pakistan. Pakistan is definitely a state which is collaborating with them. They are colluding. They have got your say that one road, one belt scheme, and then Chinese Pakistan economic corridor. These are their understanding. So to that extent, we need to realize that China collusion between China and Pakistan cannot be ruled out, right? So now coming nearer, we have realized that point. At this juncture, we have realized that point, but now the question is of time and space, right? After realizing this, if I say we are just near parity with China, that means the two-front war as such cannot be tackled. So, though of course we maintain that we have the ability to fight two-front war. Rather, our ex-CDS said we have the ability to fight 2.5 front war, which implied that is Pakistan, China, and our internal problems. That also constitute a very active threat to our security, and it needs to be addressed separately. So to that extent, now the question is, diplomatically, I think we have started already tackling the situation, and in which we have already gone in with that Quad understanding, in which USA, Australia, then Japan and India, fairly strong. Firstly, USA and Australia, they have been collaborating as separately also, and now they are in tandem in your Quad agreement, and this is diplomatically a one move which gives you confidence, yes, that we will be backed up as far as any aggression is concerned. And in the meantime, while we have realized all that, we have been, our acquisition has started in a big way. And as far as the smaller arms are concerned, we are already in that process of Atmanirbhar. Right? One example of Atmanirbhar, as which involves even export of our products, is the BrahMos missiles, which we have recently exported to Philippines.
Philippines, yeah.
These things, you see, are at the moment giving a positive indication, but it has got its own limitation of time, right? We have already got the Rafales in. The last consignment of, I think, 14 Rafales or some is still pending. It will be in that way also. But then this process, I would say, is delayed, but it has been taken. So to that extent, that is right. But now, my first point when I started off was, the opposition has no right really to question why it is not being done at a bigger space, why we are not prepared. Because preparation is not a magic wand. It has its own gestation period. If you are want to be Atmanirbhar, if you have to develop a tank which is of the latest technology, it will take its own time. So to that extent, all these points have to be understood, and opposition is required to play a constructive role of giving an understanding, giving approvals without wastage of time, and that is what is required. So I have covered a spectrum of points, right? As far as the China, Pakistan is concerned, that the preparation, you see, should have been coming on simultaneously. That is not understatement or overstatement, because the budget will speak for itself. The acquisition will speak for itself. Say, for example, when I was in army in the planning side, I found that probably induction of one equipment took 10 years. That was the sort of, say, trials were to be conducted, reports have to be prepared, budget allocation. So that, had it been an urgent requirement to match up your diplomatic effort, probably things would have been much faster, right? So that point is that much important. And now the process has started. I hope it doesn't die away with rhetorics. And once this process has started, it will take some time till our own infrastructure builds up. Now, say, for example, Atmanirbhar in different terminology, that was Army Civil Cooperation. I have attended a number of seminars. I think FICCI had conducted and things like that, where the civil this manufacturers had come to understand what is the requirement of army, and to that extent, what can be done indigenously, and import substitution can be made. So this concept is carrying on, but it had not got the momentum which it should have. Now, for example, the positive steps which have been taken to expedite that is that the ordnance factories are being reorganized and things like that. So it has its own gestation period, which I think the current government should outline it if it is not a matter of security. So this is what is, as far as the Pakistan and China is concerned. Then, as far as China is concerned, there are other strong points they have at the moment. Is they have been able, they are going forward as far as their power of that line of succession was concerned. They have say formalized it, and to that extent, Deng Xiaoping, who was the first of the premiers who had opened up the economy and has been carried forward carried forward now by Jinping. So then Jinping has been also able to overcome his tenure problem, and he is going to be there in the chair for next number of years, which have not yet been finalized. So to that extent, this is there, though, of course, due to COVID, they have suffered a setback as far as their projects are concerned, including some of the companies who had a manufacturing hub there. They have shifted. And to some extent, we are also trying to woo them to India. How much we will be successful is yet to be seen, though we have created a defense hub in Uttar Pradesh, which has which is developing in a big way. The scope and all has not yet been spelled out as such. Yes. So that particular question of Mr. Ghosh, that has been answered. And anything else you would like to?
Yes, I think Sir Yash has a question. He wanted to just come in.
Ah,
Maybe if
Yes,
you,
sir.
with your permission, we can
oh,
allow.
yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yash, you
my
can please.
question,
Yeah.
thank you, sir. So my question is regarding, as you just mentioned, that India has this week made an agreement with Philippines Navy to export BrahMos missile there to act as a deterrent against Chinese interests. So my question is regarding India's security interest in the Indo-Pacific. We have a regional hegemony there, which the United States, along with its allies Japan, the Southeast Asia, the Western partners, they're trying to challenge that hegemony. So how does India fit there? What is its role? What can it do? What is it doing?
You see, India has got a tightrope walk at the moment, right? Because earlier it was aligned to a guaranteed support from USSR, as well as and yet maintaining a non-aligned profile. But that has ultimately, with the dissolution of the USSR as Russia, the power equation has been changing. So to that extent, India had to do a rethink, both ideologically as well as pragmatically. Pragmatically, because Russia, we cannot say, earlier in the Cold War, it was USA number one, Russia number two, and somewhere China taking the third rung as such. But now, with the dissolution of Russia, definitely US emerged as a superpower, and Chinese, after opening the economy, are contesting to be called superpower. And in some parlance, in diplomatic parlance, they it has been analyzed that they probably want to be respected as a superpower, accepted as a superpower. So to that extent, that tussle between US and China is discernible, though not only. But now I can correct myself, because Biden recently has almost challenged, as far as the China seeking hegemony over Taiwan is concerned. Or so now coming to that, as far as the India's role is concerned, we have shifted our priorities towards USA, both for the economic reasons as well as for the mind you, we have not left our alignment as far as defense equipment is concerned with USSR, and we are still with them with that famous friendship treaty, which has been signed right during the Brezhnev time. So, to that extent, we are shifted, and now the issue is if we have got not very many choices as far as with the emerging situation of the China is concerned, and the indications which they have dispelled by hobnobbing as far as the borders are concerned, the undelineated borders are concerned, where there is only an understanding. And they have not done it once. Say, for example, Doklam. For example, this is the live example, Galwan Valley, or earlier at Nathula Pass. All these places, there have been skirmishes with the Chinese, though we have given them a bloody nose as such. But then, somewhere or the other, they have proved that they can take offensive against us. Seeing them militarily, their deployment in the hinterland of Tibet, as well as on the border, the way they have done it. So to that extent, India as such has to have its own backup support, both diplomatically and as far as the militarily. Now, in that, the first case would be of information sharing. Though we have also started developing satellites, we have positioned satellites, but still to beef up to a foolproof intelligence gathering, we need that. And to that extent, I think USA is the best bet. And we have to play that role in the Quad, and we have to show that sincerity towards the concept of the Quad. Then only I think the earlier partners, that is US, Australia, they are likely to take us seriously as far as containing China is concerned. So we are very much in the chain or in the partnership with the other three countries in projecting ourselves to contain China. Does it match up? So this is very important, and all these things is a very continuous process. And in that, the point at issue which is always coming back time and again in my mind is the continuity of the governance or diplomatic initiatives. They cannot be disturbed by unnecessary questioning, because unnecessary questioning gives out too many of our intentions, which the enemy as well as our partners are looking for. So that aspect, to that extent, the opposition has to evolve a methodology to be kept, to be informed and yet support the overall cause of the national policies. So this is how this thing would be there.
So one more quick question.
Aj.
You just mentioned India's partnership with USSR. So we have had a very good arms relationship with them. We have been a net exporter. We have been bringing arms from Russia for long. So as we see today in the Ukraine situation, right? So there have been recently the American government commented over India's purchase of S-400 missiles. There have been the CAATSA sanctions. So how long do you think situation in Ukraine boils up? So how long can India sustain that American pressure of not buying arms from from Russia? How long do you think India can take that pressure? Will India give in after a certain point in its relationship?
You see, basically it is that we have to buy time because we have got so much of equipment. That is why I had learned say 40 years back, aid with strings, right? So this is what now the strings are pulling. We cannot move out of this thing because till the time we have got their equipment. Because in all these supplies, what was happening is somewhere they have kept a leverage with them of spare parts or of design and things like that. So to that extent, we are still dependent on them, and that is one. And probably in the long run, we are still testing our relationship with the US because it is too new and too close at the moment. And that has to withstand the test of time, right? Otherwise, as far as historically you can say, or based on the previous indications, it has been the other way around. USSR has stood with us, whereas in 71 also, the 7th Fleet, I think, was moved by the Americans in the Bay of Bengal, and it was a matter of time. It was just we were trying to we won up in completing our campaign, achieving our aim and get the surrender, whereas they were trying to pressurize to close the operations. So, so far it is like that. But this is where now the diplomacy is concerned. The present government has, I think, proved that they are able to withstand the pressure. Because when Trump was to go and Biden was to come in, there was a lot of questions as far as whether Biden coming in, who was considered, say, if not anti-India, but definitely not pro-India, right? So to that extent, but then the situation has not changed much, and we are developing our relations as per that till any further indications come about. So that is what it is. As far as Russia is concerned, you can safely say a decade of as far as their equipment is concerned and things like that. But in the long run, it will not be. Diplomacy will never say you cut out with Russia, right? Because Russia is not as staunch a communist as China, which in their communist philosophy, they have the expansion designs also. So in a nutshell, we have got a great role to play, and we have just taken the first step of preparing ourselves for that. So there is a gestation period for which we need patience. We need to give understanding to the government, a government which has come with a mandate. So if you don't trust, if you don't say your commanding officer has come, and if you don't trust him, how you will fight a battle for him? So that sort of thing is the situation.
Right. So I think Raghav sir, Mr. Raja has some question.
Yeah, we can take that. I was waiting for that. Yeah. So maybe Raza sir, you can just come in and ask Lieutenant Colonel Bedi directly. Yeah, that will be great.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my question is regarding the intelligence sharing. So, is it not possible that we can collaborate with the Israeli intelligence agencies so that they have been quite effective in tackling their hostile Arab neighbors? Since you mentioned that we are surrounded by 9 neighbors, so why don't we collaborate with the Israeli intelligence agencies to be quite effective against such odds?
You see, I fully agree with you there. Okay, I'll go a step further. Israel has been a nation, if not we look back historically, but otherwise, say the visit of Mr. Modi in Israel when Netanyahu was there, it was outrightly clear that they want to support India in their terrorist activities, as well as they can help India in acquisitions, including the intelligence equipment. So to that extent, your point is absolutely right. We need to capitalize on that and
21 hours.
to build up our relationships much stronger. Earlier, at some stage, you see, Israel was not being supported probably because of our Muslim population as such, who say supporting Israel, probably it give an indication as if we are anti-Muslims or anti-Arabs. So to that extent, that was the problem. Otherwise, we need to go outright. They have got their intelligence equipment is technologically advanced, both for on-ground operations as well as for air defense and air operations. And their night vision devices, their drones and things like that. I'll give you an experience of mine that I was attending a seminar of defense, say about 4 or 5 years back. So they had also displayed the equipment. After the seminar, we were asked to go around to see the equipment. So there were drones also there. And I asked, have they been supplied in Kashmir? They said they are still in process. I asked them how they have come about. So Israel's name also figured. I said, why we have not yet purchased out of what you call over the counter or off the shelf? Why we have not purchased and supplied it immediately? Because the need was at that particular time. And imagine if that delay has occurred today when we were attacked by drones. I'm forgetting that army camp and the others. We started formulating a concept of fighting in which drones are incorporated, both for intelligence gathering as well as for offensive purposes. Even you see, the explosive can be attached and you can bomb the airfield. So to that extent, now we are formulating that. My only contention is at that time, if the exigency of the operations demanded that, we should have gone in for that and let the nation know that this is what is happening. And that cost has to be considered in our budgetary planning, as well as our the planning that Niti Aayog and others get integrated on that. So that point is absolutely valid. We need to go in for that. Now, what is the status? I'm not very sure. I do not have any inputs, inside inputs as such, but point is well taken. So at the moment,
Yes, sir.
I'm that picture is not coming.
Which was?
Your audio is there, sir.
Right.
No problem, sir. Please.
Okay. So as we go by, we have covered this. Now we come down to the, as we have already spoken of having good relationship with the neighbors. Now, good relationship with the neighbors, you see, let's take, for example, Nepal.
Mhm.
It is the only Hindu country, but yet we had strained relationships with him. Kind courtesy, Chinese policies, Chinese ability to fund their projects and exercise their pressure. Now, this is where, again, it comes back to us, if we need to be economically strong to be able to look after the interest of our neighbors. What is that? That is that we should act as a bulwark to Chinese designs, both economic as well as militarily, because they have a pattern of having disputes over the having territorial disputes all over. If you go right from Taiwan to India, they have got these problems. So Nepal is also now recently Prime Minister Oli had dissolved the parliament. That was probably the Chinese thought it is in their favor, but it has not come about in that particular manner. And there are indications at the moment. Again, I think because of our diplomacy, that there are positive indications, though very small. Say, for example, Chief of Army Staff being conferred the rank of Honorary Chief of Nepal Army. undertaking of the joint military exercises like Surya Kiran, or for that matter, modernizing and training of the disaster management personnel, joint patrols along the border, forming Nepal-India technical level joint boundary working group in 81. Now, all these things are a positive signs. Now, we have to build upon that. We have to resolve. For example, the border issue, which was there at near Kalapani or that place called Limpi Yadura. These are some of the places where they had the border issue. Now, that border issue in some form or the other has to be addressed. Otherwise, due to the pressure of the Chinese, they have even say passed it in the parliament, taken out the map, and now going back on those issues will be a Herculean task. So, and these disputes are not existing as of today. They were there, but then progressively it cannot be put into back burner. Nothing can be put into back burner because it has to come up. And as far as the at the international level is concerned, say even 5 years is no time. It can even after 5 years. So you cannot forego all these things. And similarly, the same conclusion is emerging time and again. Say you take Bangladesh. There was a patch when the military dictatorship was there. Apart from that, we have got good relation with the current prime minister. Our trade is improving, but we have a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with them in 2019, but yet the trade of China is higher. Now, we have to think, evolve a policy where if tax benefits are given, if things are given and our products become cheaper, in that case, we are able to develop greater trade. So that will help in building up relationship, and we have to definitely project that we can say be a protect them as far as brazen Chinese aggression is concerned. Though we may not sign a treaty, but until and unless we show that strength, we have that instill in them that confidence. How can they ward off the Chinese gestures which are built up through material gains? So that aspect is very important, and it is coming up as far as each of these neighbors are concerned: Bangladesh, Nepal, and this thing. So, am I being heard? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
You are audible, sir. Very much audible.
Because I'm
Sir,
not able to see. Right.
Yes, sir. Can I ask one question in between?
No problem.
Sir, is it in similar lines like as of now we are providing this COVID vaccinations to all, neighboring nations, not only neighboring nations, even some of the African countries as well. Apart from that, earlier as well, we gave in forms of different aid to African countries. So in some of the media, it was coming up like कि जैसे चाइना कई सारे कंट्रीज में अपने आप को एक्सपेंड कर रही हैं अपने मार्केट को, सिमिलरली इंडिया इज आल्सो टेकिंग स्टैंड लाइक दैट. So, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah. You see, COVID as such was one, happening which showed strength of our country right from the very beginning, irrespective of what people have been criticizing. I think the way we went about was commendable, because any planning, do you think goes by plan? Even your, say, domestic planning doesn't go as the way you have planned. There are always modifications required. There are always, say, alternatives to be sought. and the way we went about. Otherwise, imagine we did not have any infrastructure. I remember it's about 15 years back or something like that, there was a McKinsey report on the, say, the medical sufficiency in India, and they had predicted at that particular time that India will never have that sufficiency, or they would be able to meet the bed and patient relationship for next, I do not know, it was almost 30 years. Till 30 years, they will not be able to meet it. So our situation was not at all good. Now, this is not a making of one day. Health centers, we are posting photographs that they are neglected. Their walls have got fungus. I have seen that, and I feel very poor about ourselves. Why? Because why it is at this stage we are like this? Why the funds allocation? Where did the funds allocation went wrong? I will come to another sweeping statement later. But why these funds have not? We have not been able to do it. But what good happened was the way we responded to this crisis, building it up phase-wise, time with exact timelines, and developing both on the pharmaceutical side, that is the vaccines, development of the vaccines, as well as motivating the public, motivating its citizens to take precautionary measures, which was not an easy job, because we as individuals, we are rather reactive than taking it in a positive manner. Yes, it has been advised. It is an advisory issued by the health ministry, and but we are not ready to observe it. If you are not ready to observe it, and something is happening, then why you blame the planners? Because then you see how the mobilization of the health workers was done, how they were beefed up by supporting them, by getting the say the medical students also on duty. All these things, all these mobilization which has taken place was commendable. It could not have been. You see America, what happened to them? Technologically advanced, best hospitals. But what happened? They buckled as far as this suffering was concerned. They may have recovered all right, but then the way they suffered, the way the deaths came about was much more unplanned, and in comparison to what India was doing. And imagine the mammoth population going to each and individual, the way keeping record of that, all that mobilization which had taken place. Now coming to COVID also, COVID vaccines. Now they have been developed systematically, and yet people had the audacity to pass rumors. It was like passing a rumor in a war that we have got defeated and our army is running back. It is something like that. And if you are passing, that is an irresponsible statement until and unless you have judged it. This administration of the vaccine has caused damage to the individual life. It has not. Those freak incidents are of that is called comorbidity, right? Because those who have already got some problem of, say, of lungs, of blood pressure, of diabetes, and things like that. That is one aspect. The second aspect is now exporting it to the other countries. Say at a certain stage, as a nation, until unless you project yourself that you can do something more than just receiving aids. It is very important. And at no stage, those limited export which was carried out had any bearing on the distribution or availability of the COVID vaccine. It was just a hype because, say for example, it was a bad sign that those who are anti-government states, their motivation. Now you compare it. Okay, their motivation, their reporting, in comparison to, say, Yogi Adityanath's Uttar Pradesh, their reporting, you will find the difference. You will find the difference in the reporting even today. You see other matters, say their schemes which were concerned. What were the chulas distributed, or your this toilets made. There are so many schemes which were there. They are being reported. You see the reporting of Adityanath in comparison to other states. Why aren't they reporting in the same manner? And this federal relationship is no relationship, right? This will come. This is a big matter of concern. The states not pulling the line with the central government. So COVID supply, the complete logistical planning of the COVID has been very nice and commendable. COVID, say, vaccines exported to a limited extent should not be a cause of this. Now, the third thing I'll touch upon, yes, oxygen. Maybe, I'm not very sure, the requirement of the oxygen for the phase 2 with that Delta variant was, but even if it was not assessed, the mobilization which took place of the oxygen, the way the trains, special trains were moved, the way the plants were imported, I think it is worth appreciating. Otherwise, imagine the hue and cry which would have taken place. So all these things, though of course lives were lost, what can be questioned is, did we assess that so much oxygen would be required? And if it was, why not we had taken action? But once the realization of the crisis was done, the mobilization was commended. Does it give the idea?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir.
So this is
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Hello. Can I get back the picture?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
How is it to be done? I have to sign in again.
Maybe you're. No, sir. We can see you, sir.
Achha, you can see me. Achha, that's great. That's great. It is one way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is what it is about. Now we have discussed a complete gamut, you see, of all these, and then Afghanistan is another issue which is there. Right now in Afghanistan, it is again a catch-22 situation where you see US had administered this nation for almost 20 years and then withdrew suddenly to pave way for Taliban. Aim of US in Afghanistan, if not spelt out by them, or I am not privy to their documents, but it must have been very plain and simple, to build up an administration to build up a political structure, to build up their economy so that they can withstand the designs of the Taliban, that is Islamic expansion and say progressing with jihad. So that was probably the aim, which I am trying to spell it out on behalf of the Americans. And they have poured in a lot of funds also on a long-term basis. They have done, the last few years, they have been able to create parliament. They have been able to prop up Karzai as the president. Then they have been able to build up the economy to a very, very limited extent. What does it show? It shows that the aim, they had digressed from the aim and they were just carrying out with their presence. And otherwise, there is no reason, 20 years, 2 decades. I think if they, there was a missionary zeal, there was a lot to be done and lot could have been done, which was not done. And that is why when the Taliban came in, the Afghan army fled, the Karzai, the president fled, and leaving the people to the mercy of the Taliban. Now, this was, as it is, there are indications. There are 2 indications, right? Or one is a logic, the other is an indication. The first logic is that it is not conceivable that America has withdrawn without talking to Taliban. Some form of tacit agreement must have come about in this regard. But the way the Americans withdrew and the damage was caused, one cannot say, one can only say that this coordination was not done. The second thing is, if the coordination in this particular case, Taliban, if this coordination was not done, the American withdrawal was a schmozzle. It was unplanned and left the human beings, I would first say human beings, and then the Afghanis at the mercy of Taliban. To an extent, there were reports where even people were hanging on the undercarriage of the airplanes, thinking that they will be able to get out of the country. Then the collapse of the Afghan army was something, a great enigma till today, as far as I am concerned, because there are no indications that they should not, they have fled without a purpose. Here, probably some tacit agreement was there. Otherwise, the amount of ammunition, the type of equipment which was left, I'm sure Afghan army could have given the resistance as given by, I'm forgetting the name of the person who claimed, the vice president or some was there, who claimed, who gave resistance in the northern borders. So this sort of situation which is there in Afghanistan is pathetic. The Americans, on top of that, they have frozen almost a huge, just a minute. They have frozen the assets as well as the funds which are there. Now, as far as Taliban is concerned, this time they are trying to be wise. They are trying to understand the situation. They are trying, therefore, they are trying to woo the international community to recognize them as the as a government, as the preparators of Afghanistan as a country, and to that extent, they are that much underplaying all their philosophies, including participations of women in public jobs, and then being strict with them as far as their dress code is concerned, and the other issues. So far, there have been no other pronouncements that Taliban's aim of expanding Islam, or for that matter, assisting Pakistan to carry out operations in Kashmir. All these, they have not yet opened their cards. We are, and is keeping us or everybody guessing on that. Now, in this sort of a scenario where the public of the Afghans, Afghans is concerned, is in poverty, the assets are still frozen, the Talibans are still not being recognized. Even China has got its reservations. It is, soft peddling the issue. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, they have not yet openly declared their support, or probably because of the dispute on the Durand line, which is the international border they call between Afghanistan and Pakistan. So in this state of flux, as far as India is concerned, yes, I would say there were some news that their premier Akhund, had made a statement that they want India to continue with their projects, which India had heavily invested on. So that is a very mild hint which was given, and thereafter it has never been reported as far as the media is concerned or in newspapers. So in this scenario, there is a state of flux and uncertainty, both in Afghanistan as well as for its neighbors and those who may be directly concerned with it. Now, once that is there, the question comes about is what India should do. Because Afghanistan, for India, is always there is always a role for them to play, and particularly with Pakistan in between. Now, as far as at the moment, as far as India is concerned, they are almost on a wait and watch stance. And though they had called for a meeting of the South Asian states like say Iran, Kyrgyzstan, Russia, Kazakhstan, Turkestan, Uzbekistan, for a meeting for assessing the situation in Afghanistan. Mind you, here you will notice that Pakistan and China stayed away from this particular meeting. And the other peculiar point was that they had not called Taliban for the meeting. Maybe because of the political situation, that had they called it, it might have meant that they have recognized them as the provisional government or a government to stay. So in this scenario, the discussion has taken place. And earlier also, I think Iran had called a similar meeting, and the discussion that meeting was there. Now, in this, basically, the issues which were discussed was the stability of Afghanistan, the future prospects of the Afghanistan, and the discussion was more generic. But the good point was that these countries have come together to consider the situation of Afghanistan, and in that, India can play a leading role. Rather, it is mandatory. But then, what is the problem is, once again, we have to go back and question ourselves. Are we prepared? Can we bite so much of responsibility? So this particular answer means, if not, then we have to now imbibe, now include it in our whole gamut of strategy and work for it. It may take, it has a gestation period which you just can't avoid. And the citizens and the opposition needs to understand that. And say by any chance, they are in the government, they have to carry on with that particular strategy instead of abandoning it for smaller gains. So this is what it is about Afghanistan. Anything else? Hello.
Shivdas ji has some question. Yeah.
Yes.
I think yeah. I think please.
Shivdas ji, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hello, namaste.
Namaskar ji.
Very well explained discussion. May I actually make some actually include here or focus some other points actually?
Yes, why not?
Actually,
it's a learning process.
And sir, I have learned a lot from this your invaluable discussion actually. Actually, today's topic is internal security. I am from Northeast. I am from Assam. My point is actually we have talked about. We have learned about much regarding our neighbors and on all these things, and also regarding India and Israel strategic partnership. But here a point actually here. Important point is India is yet to identify the social disparity in case of Northeast India, particularly because the insurgency issue in Northeast has drastically changed its character since its inception. If we consider the time of Fijo movement in Nagaland and today's incident, the gulf of difference between these two. And this is what happening. The entire Northeast is actually under Islamic terrorism. We are talking good things about Bangladesh, no doubt. That is the Bangladesh government and Indian government relationship is no doubt good. But what happened in Tripura recently, I would like to mention and I will request you to listen to the social media propaganda of Bangladesh through the Waj Mahfils. I can name one person that is Inayatullah Abbasi, who actually regularly makes Waj and provokes the youths of Bangladesh to be jihadi. So Bangladesh's relationship and that relationship, we can't take anything for granted in case of Bangladesh. We need to be very careful. Once Zulfikar Ali Bhutto said in his famous book, The Myth of Independence, in page number 138, he says that East Pakistan is the strategic hold of Bangladesh, West Pakistan. And after that, this Bangladesh remains so. And apart from that, if we consider the Assam Mizo conflict that happened, as it looked, the two countries were actually on the war side. This is mainly because of the agenda of the central government to make the political leadership of Assam to provide leadership of entire Northeast India, which cannot be accepted by any means. And that is why Mijos actually retaliated. And in Manipur election this time, you see, main issue is the withdrawal of AFSA, that is Armed Forces Special Power Act. So all this point virtually prove that in case of Northeast India and other parts as well, insurgency issue. If other problems are definitely there, the issues of others actually. India is yet to make logistics to, provide surveillance in the Brahmaputra river. Brahmaputra river, there is virtually no logistic there. Can it be imagined after 70 years there is such a river which actually includes both Bangladesh and China. On the other hand, there is only three or seven perhaps. Riverine posts without any equipment, and no need to go during the flood situation. Even in today's also, there is the main reason of cattle smuggling. Why? And another important point is lack of understanding and lack of coherence between the central government and the state governments regarding all these things. And another problem for India's foreign policy, as I have always seen, that the internal political compulsion, because you can't take decision regarding Bangladesh keeping aside the sentiment of Bengal. You can't take decision against regarding Sri Lanka keeping aside the interest of the Tamil. So such thing can empower our country. So we need to rise above such things. We need to understand the issues of Northeast. There is every possibility in the coming days. Mao is getting strong hold in Northeast because of these things. And they are not hearing the appeal of the people of Arunachal Pradesh, who wants that there should be a Arunachal regiment in the Indian Armed Force. So Arunachal Pradesh is the only state, perhaps in the entire country, that has always stood by India and always actually has always given proper reply to all propaganda of China. And how disparity and their patriotism, their contribution, and their actually urge to become an armed force to serve this nation. This should also be addressed, and this will give a good message to other Northeastern regions actually. And understanding the society of Northeast is very important. There is Mizo, there is Naga, all are not similar. We can't take our decisions. We can make one policy for Northeast. And this one policy of Northeast has actually proved to be very, very actually, spoiling not only for the interest of the Northeast, but the entire security interest of India. This is my opinion. I may be wrong actually. I'm not saying that I'm correct, but what I see today, that in case of Bangladesh, this is not a win-win situation, because people living in the border areas of Bangladesh should not be judged their sentiment with the sentiment of Sheikh Hasina. And there was a debate recently in Bangladesh regarding making Bangladesh a secular country. So how protest was registered against this one, and how social media propaganda made actually security situation volatile in Tripura. So all these things put together put several question marks regarding the policies. And I may be wrong, sir, because I have little knowledge regarding all these things. Despite this, I have mentioned this. What about it, sir? Am I right or wrong in what the better person to judge it actually. And so
Your name, please?
I'm Shivdas Bhattacharya.
Anji? Siddharth.
Shivdas Bhattacharya.
Okay, Mr. Bhattacharya, it's a pleasure listening to you. You have made many points and they are relevant, right? They cannot be ignored. Now only and it will come about the same way. I'll also touch upon those points. Like firstly, you see, Assam, out of Assam, the so-called seven sisters have been carved out, right? Like for example, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Arunachal, Manipur, Nagaland, all these have been carved out of a state, out of a state, Assam. Now, why they were done was basically based on their ethnicity and their tribal geographical habitat, and to that extent it was done like that. However, now because of its remoteness, because of we being slow in our reach as far as the nation was concerned, the outside powers, mainly Chinese, you see, the Chinese were trying to fill in a void by supporting nationalist cause. They were one of the few ones who had propped up, say, National Security Council of Nagaland, or in Manipur. Manipur, in the case of Manipur, they had their own statehood. They were captured by the Britishers, and thereafter they had joined the mainstream statehood somewhere in 1972. They were captured somewhere in 49, and thereafter they were granted statehood in 72. Why that much late? If that point that they had a separate state, either they should have been fully integrated with the mainland, that at that time it was Assam, and Assam government being totally responsible to them. If that would have been there, the situation would have been different. Or for example, say in your Mizo National Front, where the Mizos and the Chakmas and the Brus are having a conflict because their tribal realization, as you have said, the local, the understanding at the local level needs to be understood. So these things are there, available. The information is available, as I can see in my study also. I saw that this is available. Now, as far as, say, for example, in Tripura, the problem is of the migrants of the Bangladesh. Now, this thing should have been addressed. Then,
there is, excuse me, there is a question regarding Kaplang issue, ancient Kaplang. May I answer?
Yeah, you can elaborate what you want to say.
No, someone actually asked about the Kaplang, in ancient Kaplang issue that is dangerous. I saw a question. May I answer, please?
Yes,
with your due permission.
Yeah, please.
Actually, here the problem in Nagaland is actually.
What dangerous? He did not ask any question. I mean, it is his observation only.
You see, the point is, what I was talking, or what Mr. Bhattacharya has done, we have so far not touched upon this word of Kamtapur out of Assam. There is an organization called KLO, Kamta Liberation Organization. Now, all these issues which are there, they need to be addressed. Now, this should have been a priority. Now, once you give a priority, here our recommendation comes about is at the national level, at Delhi, Probably there may be a cell, there may be a department which is dealing with the East, all matters of the East. But at this, what is being done? That is very important, because until unless that feel of the ground is not there, of the tribals which are there, the sensitivity of the Mizos, the sensitivity of the Chakmas, the sensitivity of the Brus, and this Kamtapur, which I don't think has ever been discussed, and then the Tripura problem of the migrants in Bangladesh. All these issues, they are of different nature, but they need to be addressed simultaneously and with effect. Now, say for example, migrants, the issue is not only having an agreement with the Bangladesh government, but on ground, how this needs to be checked is the point. How the rivers have to be covered to stop the infiltration or infiltration as such, because this infiltration is double-edged, because firstly denuding the resources, the local resources, the other is the security risk. Mind you, this problem of migrants coming to Assam, even say all throughout the border adjoining the Bangladesh, the migrants coming, Rongias coming. Earlier than that, the other settlements which have been coming. As far as the armed forces is concerned, I was also one of the man on the desk, the officer on the desk, who used to report regularly in the civil military liaison conferences that this is a security risk. It is not of today. Say I'm 95, I was posted in Siliguri, and prior to that, this problem is coming up. Intelligence reports have been coming up that the migrants problem, and it has been categorically said it is a security risk. But now, once this problem is to be addressed, say the government wants to be proactive by recognizing who are the refugees or who are to be sent back or pushed back or boarded out. All these issues, you see, when at the national level, when this action is to be taken, the opposition, I'm sure you must be knowing, they have been quoting even law of migration, it is against the human rights. So that there are international law which they are trying to quote to justify. But as far as the administration is concerned, as far as the nation is concerned, certain actions have to be taken to control these migrants. We, over and above, we fall into that power broking by developing a vote bank for yourself, by obliging them with facilities, establishing them, issuing certification, and thereafter they become your vote bank. So this scenario has to be checked. This is what my point is. As a polity, we should understand, and as opposition, we need to understand and understand that it cannot be made a political issue. It cannot be made a human issue out of them. Human we are. India is a humanity-prone country. It has never caused an aggression for territorial gains. It has never overpowered. In fact, it has got a record which no nation in the world can do. We have liberated a nation, we have created a nation, and we have liberated a race. Though it is unfortunate that that race may go against us. That is totally a different issue. And in a commendable manner. It is on record. Commendable manner, our conduct in Bangladesh and conduct with the prisoners of war. It was, no country can follow the Geneva Convention the way we did it with the 90,000 soldiers. So it is no rhetoric. It is what I am speaking is facts, facts of the ground. So this is the migrant problem. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed and with a stern hand. Now, until and unless we strengthen our government, our executives who do that, it is just not possible.
I think this has been quite a session, and just try to see that a veteran of 50 years of active service, sir, is just going on and on. We are just touching 1 hour and 50 minutes now. And what a comprehensive commentary sir has given about the multifaceted threats and challenges to India's security. And Shivdas Da is always filled with lots and lots of questions, and these sessions can go past midnight, but then we have to give sir, the Honorable Lieutenant Colonel sir, some rest. We had not thought of it to pass. So maybe we can have a follow-up session sometime. And one very central theme which sir has advocated upon and brought about a real, I would say, an eye-opening for all of us. The recommendation, the bottom line recommendation is, let's not politicize India's external security. The political hobnobbing can happen on a host of other issues, but on the national security frontiers, we have to be united, and we just cannot use the political opposition just for the sake of opposition to really oppose the long-term implications of India's external security. Lieutenant Colonel S.K. Bedi, sir, it has been really a very privilege of ours to really get this huge, I would say, a very, very comprehensive commentary on things. Shivdas Da, we will come back on the follow-up session. It is really 1 hour, 50 minutes past. I cannot, sir has been so gracious. He has been just telling us all. So we can have the questions offline in the follow-up session. Thanks a lot, sir, for this lovely commentary. And these 50 years of liberation of Bangladesh, what India played such a massive role. And maybe in the follow-up session, when we'll be having that, how as a armed forces veteran, do you see the difference in the political climate way back in 1971 and probably in 2022, a kind of a comparative analysis? Because when Indian Army went into Bangladesh, freed that country despite the global Cold War happening all through. So how the entire polity of the country got united. So maybe we will have those deeper insights from you in action, a comparative analysis in a follow-up session. Yeah. Thanks a lot, sir. It has been really a privilege. Thanks for everyone. Yeah, thank you so much.
Namaskar. I enjoyed, and I am ready to join back to further take the issue forward as you deem fit. Right?
Sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
And I thank the viewers also, and those who have taken active part in putting across the questions as well as points.